What up? Wimbush here. Today I'm excited to show you one of the new features in Dim Earth 4. Now what I'm going to be showing you is how you can take your lake, you can isolate it out, you can mask it, and put your own materials on there. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Okay, so to get started, once we have everything installed, I'm going to come up to Dim Earth, come down to Dim Earth Geocoder tool, click on that, and yeah, I'm in California, so let's look up Lake Tahoe. It's a popular destination here. Click enter. And then once we have our coordinates in here, click make a pin. But when we click make a pin, you want to make sure that send to active dim earth object is checkmarked here. Just so whenever you click make the pin, let me click H on my keyboard. There we go, we're backed out, and it makes a geometry for us. So if you didn't have that checked mark, then it wouldn't make the geometry for you, so make sure you have that checked mark there. And right here in this gray matter, this should be our lake area. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up under my attributes window, and I'm going to use these offsets to kind of center it up a little bit. So the one thing about dim earth is it works off of exact coordinates. So we have our longitude and latitude here, and then if you want to change these, I mean, they're so precise, you can see that it's down to like the third decimal point. So if you mess with these at all, it might mess up your area that you're working in. And so the best way to do it is kind of target in the general area that you want to be at, and then use these offsets to kind of center it up and move the map as you need it. And then I can also make this larger here in a minute, but first I want to kind of isolate my lake out here so that I can add my own materials to it. So my next job is I'm going to come up to dim earth, come down to dim earth poly object. Now once I click on that, we have these object tabs down here, and it will say multi-polygon query. You want to click on that, and then that should bring up some options for us here to select what lake we want to use. And so now under user data here, we see that we have a button for Lake Tahoe, but we also have other areas in the area too if you want to isolate those out. But for this example, let's look at Lake Tahoe. So I'm gonna click on that, and now you can see that we actually have like the spline outlining the area here, and this will be Lake Tahoe. So what I want to do now is I want to come over here where it says create an alpha mask. I'm going to click on that, and you'll see that's going to make a new material for us. So now we have our material here. If I pull up my material nodes down here, you can see that we have our own material for Lake Tahoe here, and it's all masked out. So what I want to do now is I want to kind of put in some more geometry in the surrounding area here. So if I come down to object, my object tab, let's click on object down here, and then let's make the width and the height, let's say like 8,000 by 8,000, and pull back a little bit. So now we have the surrounding areas in here as well. So we have our lake, and I believe over here is some district, some city, and everything down here. So the best way to see that is let's add some material to it. So you want to come over here to map loader. You want to click on the disclaimer. Basically, disclaimer says, like, if you use stuff like MapQuest or Bing Maps, Google Maps, if you're going to use it for like broadcast, you want to get permission first, because there's probably some licensing fee behind that. And so that's just a disclaimer there saying that you have to go through the proper steps if you do want to use that. But what I like to use is the Esri World Imagery. I believe this might be free to use. Don't take my word on it, but you want to check it out for yourself. So I'm going to undock this here, because I want to show you guys down below here where it says info. This gives us some information here that's pretty useful to us. So it says tile count, and basically whenever the satellites are traveling around the earth taking pictures for this stuff, basically it's taking photographs and then merging them together, and so those will be considered your tiles. And so this is our tile count and our image resolution. And if you see here under level, as I move this up, our tile count goes up and our image resolution goes up as well. So let me click on 14, see how fast this downloads. That's one of the things about Dim Earth 4 is we're supposed to get faster download times. And as you can see, that downloaded pretty quick there. Maybe let me try 15. No, it's not going to let us go that high, so we'll stick with 14. Sometimes if your tile count and your resolution gets too crazy, it's not going to let you download that, because that'd be too much bandwidth on the system. But this right here looks like it would be good enough. If we zoom in here to our lake, and this is one of the reasons why we want to be able to isolate our lake, and why this is a cool feature of version 4, is because if you look here, you can actually see where the tiles kind of got messed up with the satellite capture. And so I guess that would be based on when the satellite took the imagery and the reflection from the sun, etc. You know, many different things could go into this, but we can make our own material for here anyway. So I'm gonna close this and I'm gonna reset my startup here. There we go. And you pull this up here. And so my next step now is I want to make my own material for this lake. And so to do that, you see in the upper right hand corner here, we have our lake material, and then we have the espresso tag that's kind of associated with it. So if you click on this one, you can see it says Lake Tahoe mask. And if you click on this one, it has a bunch of numbers, which if I come down to my material here, you can see why. So whenever we downloaded our satellite imagery, this is the file name that it gave it. It's a bunch of numbers.tiff, and this right here matches that. So what I want to do is I want to take these two items here, move them over to the right of our material, and now we have our lake material stacked on top of our geometry here. And so what I want to do now is I want to click on my tab that's associated with my mask here, and I want to come down to embedding, and I'm going to enable it. And as you can see, it kind of made like this square ditch here. And this is where we're going to kind of fine tune the elevation of our lake. So if I want to come down to mode, come down to mask, then I usually like to start at scale around 2000 and see where that gets us. And if I zoom in here, you can see that it's making our lake higher than our shoreline here. So let's move this down to 1900, see what that gets us. It's a little bit better, maybe 1800. That brings it, let's do 1850, somewhere in the middle there. Okay, so we're good with that now. And then I can also, let me come over to my display so we can see our polygon count, because we can actually add more polygons to this to kind of define it a little bit more. So if I click back on my dim earth object, come over to object, and then down under here, under, where we at? Oh, subdivisions. So if I come to object, subdivisions, let's raise this up something like 600. You can see that our geometry is a lot finer now, so it'll be less jagged. And then we can also raise the height of our mountains here. So let me scroll down to like a POV type shot here, so we can really see how this exaggerates. So down here under remapping, under height amplify, let's raise this up. You can see our mountain ranges and everything raises up. And it's making our shoreline here look a little bit funky. So I'm gonna go back to my tab here, right here in the upper right hand corner. Come down to my scale. Let's make this 1900 maybe 1950. No, 1925. Yeah, somewhere around there is pretty good. Okay, cool. So now we have our mountain ranges around our lake here. So the next thing is, let's add some reflectance to this material. So if I double click on my masked material here, come down to reflectance, let's do metal, and for my type, let's try a ward. Then if I bring up my reflective strength to like 50, we should be able to reflect like a sky in here pretty well. So if I come up to my, what do you say, create, come down to physical sky. Now I have a physical sky in my scene. Let me scroll around. You can see, and we're getting some good reflection off our sky here. So that's like a cool shot right there. So let me render this out in my viewport. And there you go. So yeah, it's just a matter of playing with your lighting from here, but this gives us a pretty good looking lake here along with our geometry. So that's just a tip in the new feature of Dim Earth 4 that I'm really excited to play around with, because I do a lot of environmental stuff for TV shows. So this will definitely help me out being able to isolate the waterways like this. So hopefully this helped you guys out. You know, I've been using Dim Earth for a long time now. I use it a lot in my pipeline whenever I'm working on TV shows. So this new feature here is definitely something that will help me out in the future. So if this does help you out, make sure you leave me a comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and as always, keep creating. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.